55. I'm the books editor at O Magazine. I've been there for about 2.5 years.
Sarah, when you turned 50, was it a easy transition? Was it a cataclysmic time? Talk to me about your 50.
Well, the year I turned 50, the beginning, my birthday's in October, so at the beginning of the year that I was going to turn 50, my husband and my husband of 15 years, and I split up. So, and it was the year he was turning 60 and the year I was turning 50. So I think on some level I think that's why it happened, because it was due to happen, and so there were these milestones coming. So it was a little freaky. It was a little scary. Remember, my mother, God bless her, said something to me like, "Oh, you must be so depressed turning 50 and getting divorced in the same year." I said, "Thank you, Mother. It's be much worse to be turning 50 and be in a marriage that wasn't working." So,
Talk to me about that 1 second. Let's just
what?
being in a marriage that isn't working. A lot of women in their 50s feel better to stick with the devil known than go out there and be on my own. I never felt that way. How did you feel about
Well, I
that?
can understand why people feel that way. I mean, I think that was probably why we didn't split up when I was in my 40s, because I just kept thinking, it's too late, it's too late, it's too late, and he probably felt the same way. So, I mean, it made it a little bit easier that it was pretty mutual. So it wasn't a sense of somebody abandoning somebody, though that it was not easy going all the way, but. I think it is scary. I mean, I was less scared that I was not so scared that I would never find anybody again. I was just scared of the sort of getting from here to there. I was worried about my son, who was 11 at the time, and I was worried about money, and I was worried about jobs, and I was worried about just sort of how I was going to get through the next week, month, year. I assumed that I would find company. I wasn't desperately anxious to get married again or anything like that. I sort of relished the peace of it for the first 6 months, first year, of just not having anybody to worry about except my son, and be able to come home and just be by myself, because it had been a sort of tumultuous marriage. So it wasn't so bad, and I didn't feel desperate. I didn't feel desperate to meet somebody. I felt a little bit anxious about sort of what my life was going to look like.
And what else happened to you around 50?
Well, a couple of years later, I met somebody who I think I met, I'm trying to remember exactly, I met him right within a year of the divorce, but we sort of didn't get together for a long time, for about 2 years. So when I was like 52 or 53, well, I forgot something. I forgot that I got fired when I was 52. But then I got fired,
So you
and then
got
I met
divorced
this
and
new.
you got fired
I got
in
divorced
within
and
two
fired
years.
within 2 years. Yes.
So
All
that's
right.
like a big
Yeah. I
wham
mean,
bam at 50.
somebody said to me about a year after I got fired, "Wow, you've had a lot of loss in the last 2 years." And I thought, "Oh yeah, right. This is a lot, like, in a row." It didn't feel in a row. I mean, it felt. I mean, because the divorce was not a huge surprise, and by the time I lost my job, it was not a huge surprise either. It was in
What was your
2000.
job?
I was the editor-in-chief of Publishers Weekly.
That's a big job.
It was a big job. It was a great job, and I had loved it. And I'd been there for 4 years, but I didn't. The world was turning over. It was 2009. Everybody was. The media business was a mess. So it wasn't out of left field, and I didn't even feel all that personal, to tell you the truth. I mean,
Did
I
it
was
feel scary?
sad. What?
Did it feel scary?
Yes, I was worried about. I was worried about money. I was worried about supporting my son. I was worried about. But my ex-husband's very helpful in that way. So, I mean, it wasn't. The worry wasn't about anything imminent. It was just, what's my life going to be now, and where am I going to go? So, about 9 months later, I got hired at Oprah magazine as the book's editor, and about 6 months after that, I got involved with this new guy who I'm still involved with, and I mean, I don't mean to sound like Pollyanna, but I feel lucky, and but I also feel like I wasn't desperate, and I wasn't kind of negative about the world, and I think that helped. I think that helps. I think people can sort of sense that if that's how you're feeling.
So you have a great story in this, which is you have this kind of big whammies that hit many women at 50s, which is job loss, end of a relationship. Sometimes it's the death of a parent. And you bounce back. You're now in love with someone. You have a great relationship.
Right.
You have a job, but you like.
Yeah.
You're one of the great jobs in
Right.
magazine publishing.
Right.
What would you say to women out there who are in an unhappy relationship and are in a tenuous job situation? Give them SARA Nelson's 3 tips for survival, because you're an example of survival.
Well, I think in terms of the relationship, I mean, somebody said this to me years ago when I was thinking about getting out of this marriage, and they said, when you finally do, you're only going to wish you'd done it sooner. And I mean, there were a lot of good reasons not to do it, and a lot of it worked out that it happened when it happened. But if you're having to talk yourself into a relationship and talk yourself into being with somebody, it's really a bad sign. I mean, if you have to rationalize it, and it's really not worth it. The amount of energy that I spent doing that is now freed up to have another relationship, work harder, have more fun with my friends, everything. It's such an energy suck to be in a bad relationship. And I have a really kind of nice relationship with my ex-husband. So, in the scheme of things, it's just got to if you get into this negative place and you just keep going on and on and on about all, you make yourself a victim. And we all know lots of people in their 40s and 50s who bad things happen and then they're victims. And then that's how they define themselves. And that's how everybody sees them. And who wants to hang out with a victim? I mean, it's a cycle.
And in terms of the job, why do you think you got such a great job right away?
Well, I think that was a lot of luck. I mean, I think all of this is a lot of luck. I had been in, I had known these people who ran this magazine, and in the magazine business, because I've been in it one way or another for a long time. And somebody was retiring, and it was just a logical fit. I mean, I still think about it now. I think, well, what if I had to get another job? There is no other job. I feel like every time I, do something, I think, well, this is the last relationship. This is the last job. I hope so, but I think it's a mindset more than anything else. And I think if you just think it's going to be okay, it helps. It just helps in the way you present yourself in the world.
Well, thank you, SARA Nelson. You've done a great job, and I hope your 50s remain awesome.